I feel it's a little bit important to um, to respond to some comments which are a little bit stentorian in their manner. Somebody says I can't find it now. It's very strange. They say that I should check my sources when I claim that Mary, the Virgin Mary, is never portrayed um, without a veil in Orthodox iconography. I can say quite confidently that is the case, though I think arguably in Baroque and Renaissance art, she is occasionally portrayed with free flowing locks. And similarly, Rebecca Noble says Mary is not a virgin. She was when Yeshua was conceived, but she had normal relations after Yeshua was born. Matthew 1:24 to 25 in the King James Version. Then Joseph, being raised from sleep, did as the angel of the Lord had bidden him, and took unto him his wife, and knew her not till she had brought forth her firstborn son, and he called, and so on. It's there are biblical interpretations of those passages and of passages about James, the brother of the Lord, and so on. But Orthodox and Catholic theology is quite clear about the belief and in the ever virgin Mother of God, and that's that's what I am referencing there, and I think I think one should be clear about these things, and I think it's it's important not to muddy the narrative. In Orthodox Christianity, let's just go into this in a bit of detail. In Orthodox Christianity, the Virgin Mary, as I say, is always veiled, not sometimes, always. And her mathorion, this characteristic outer garment, is not mere clothing, but it's a theological statement. As with everything in an Orthodox icon, it veils not just her hair, but her mystery. It signifies purity, modesty, and the sacred distinction between the divine and the profane. She is Theotokos, God-bearer, and she must not resemble an ordinary woman. But in the West, particularly during the Renaissance and the Baroque periods, the veil begins to slip quite literally. And there are 5 telling examples of where, when, and why Mary's veil becomes partial, transparent, or abandoned. They're not mere aesthetic choices. They mark a fundamental shift from the icon to the image, from theology to affect, from sanctity to sentiment. The first instance in Leonardo da Vinci in the Virgin of the Rocks, for example, in the Louvre version, you can observe Mary's hair. It's partially visible beneath a delicately transparent veil. It's no Byzantine mathorion. It's closer to silk tulle. It doesn't hide, it reveals. And her forehead, her flowing hair, even the shape of her ears can be seen. Leonardo, ever the anatomist, eroticizes not through nudity but translucency. The veil becomes an invitation, not a boundary. Mary is still virginal, yes, but now palpably feminine. The veil slips and we begin to feel rather than worship or adore or reverence. Here in Raphael, in the Sistine Madonna in 1512, Mary walks on clouds holding the Christ child, flanked by Pope Sixtus and St. Barbara, and her veil is present, barely, but again it's gauzy, thin and secondary. Her face is radiant, unshadowed, and her neckline is soft and open. This is a Marian apotheosis, not of metaphysics, but of maternal empathy. And Raphael trades theological abstraction for intimacy. The veil, so central in iconography, becomes almost vestigial, a token nod to modesty in an age meant to console, not to awe. And the third instance is Caravaggio, Madonna di Loreto. As you move into the Baroque, Caravaggio the Pilgrim's Madonna. Here the veil is gone altogether. Mary appears barefoot, unidealized, standing in a darkened doorway, holding a sturdy baby Jesus who wriggles and looks out with defiant realism. Her hair is uncovered, her features unexalted, her presence almost shockingly ordinary. This is not the Queen of Heaven, but a woman in a Roman alleyway. She could be your neighbour. And the sacred has descended fully into the human. The veil, both literal and theological, is completely removed. If you go into the Capuchin Church in Rome with the Assumption of the Virgin, I forget who did this. Reni returns us to decorum, but not to concealment. In his Assumption, Mary ascends, bathed in light, surrounded by angels. Her veil floats behind her like a scarf in the wind, who's the lady with the motor car and the scarf? Anyway, and who had a relationship with a Russian poet, Sergei Yesenin. I actually lived in his house. Isadora Duncan. It frames her face, but exposes her hair, her neck, the contours of her body in soft, idealized form. Rene's Mary is a Platonic ideal, not a Theotokos. The veil is decorative, not theological, a ribbon, not a symbol. Beauty has replaced sanctity as the currency of persuasion, but the veil is there. And Murillo in the Immaculate Conception, 1678, in the Prado. The veil again is diaphanous, but more notably, Mary's hair flows freely. The curls are gold and soft, almost perfumed. Her body is lithe and glowing. She's a vision of grace, but also unmistakably sensual. In Murillo's vision, the Virgin is neither queen nor peasant, but a celestial girl, woman. The veil has now all but disappeared from artistic convention, as if we were no longer in the mood to think it was necessary. The Church's dogma of the Immaculate Conception now housed in the language of pastel light and adolescent perfection. What has been lost and what has been gained? In abandoning the veil, the Western tradition trades mystery for emotion, boundary for accessibility, theology for drama. Mary becomes more relatable, more of somebody you know, more maternal, more human, but perhaps less sacred. And so we're left with a question: when the veil slips, do we see the Virgin more clearly, or do we see ourselves more clearly? And that probably is the point. But in Orthodox iconography, the Virgin always wears a veil.